everyone, my name is Kira Han, or some know me as Miss Han. Today we are going to be jumping in to 6th grade English or language arts. And I know not all students love to read, not all students loved English in 5th grade, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some prefixes and suffixes, and we will dive a little bit into plot, but that's not towards the end of the lesson. Back to the fact that some students don't like to read. That is one of my top goals when entering the English classroom. I would love to help the students find a good book, something they love, something they haven't thought of, maybe a different genre than they've tried before, and I would just love to work with them on that. Let's see. Diving into the lesson, it's going to be a whole class instruction, and it will be taking place as a language arts classroom. Like I mentioned, in 6th grade, the students will have some background knowledge from their 5th grade English, and since prefixes, suffixes, roots are all a part of that, we'll be able to expand on what they already have knowledge of. The different areas of the classroom will include that students have a large interest in social media, technology, YouTube, want to be YouTubers. There's a lot of love of family and community, going to sporting events, a really rich history in the area we're in, and just a wide sense of family. And the Christian community is very strong in this area. The love of going to church and just overall being a good person is really important to people. The community is really strong, like I mentioned. Going to football games and all the sporting events is really popular. For student development, the student will be able to be included with emotional support, as there are two educators in the classroom, special ed support, and then the general education teacher, which I guess would be me in this circumstance. We'll start by going into the lesson. First, the students will complete a warm-up that would look very similar to this. They get to work through the prefix and suffix quiz, just as kind of a baseline to see who understands what a prefix is and what a suffix is. And then they'll know they have it when they can complete at least 80% of it. This will be done throughout the week as we expand further on it. So they'll usually just do 1 to 5 of these per class period. Let's see. It will be incorporating content that they've already learned, which is great, but we need to expand upon that and just have a good base to go into 6th grade, as we will really expand throughout the time here. The prior knowledge that they will have needed to know is the prefixes, roots, and suffixes from, like I said, 5th grade. And this is kind of a review. It's an entry into 6th grade, so students will be just entering. It'll be new, maybe the first or second week of school. So we definitely will want to see the baseline for these students as we continue. Prior skills. Students will have prior skills, and then prior academic language. The student must have prior knowledge of demonstrating affixes. Some prior knowledge of genres will be re-reviewed, but really, if this is just to gauge where the students are at and see what we need to expand upon. State standards. The student will read and demonstrate comprehension of a variety of fictional text and narrative text, and then national standards, use of knowledge and language, and its conversions when writing, speaking, reading, listening. And then we'll also do 6.5, which is demonstrating understanding figure language and word relationships. That's a mouthful. And then our NTASC, which will be standard number 2 for learning differences. And this will be important since it would be taught in a co-taught classroom. The teacher uses understanding of individual differences and the diverse cultures and communities to ensure learning environment that is able to meet high needs, low needs, students who are right there in the middle, and just really focusing on individually what they can grow on and what they need help with specifically. We can move on to language demands. The genre quiz the genre vocabulary will help with this, and we'll be able to see like what language demands there are, and then language support, since it is co-taught, will be able to be met by both the gen ed teacher and the special educator in the classroom. And then some essential vocabulary. We have plot, conflicts, protagonist, antagonist, setting, exposition, rising action, climax, turning point, and I'll bring this up, and then falling action and resolution. These we're going to get into more towards the end of the lesson as kind of a preset for the next day. But some of the genres we'll cover are autobiography, realistic fiction. We're going to talk about all those too. The pre-assessment will be given through reading inventory, like I mentioned at the beginning of the year, and students will just be entering the classroom. With the reading inventory, that will give us a good baseline to see who's where and what their interests might be in. It does prompt them to select certain genres that they're interested in before they complete the reading and the quiz and all of that, and that's just great data for us in the long run. Formative assessments will be the genre quiz, which will be graded at the end of the week, and then the summative assessments will be the genre definition sort, and that looks like this. The students will each receive this, and they'll cut it out in class, and then they'll be asked to put what type of genre it is on here. So for each little story, they'll read it with their partner, and then they'll be able to put, if this one was science fiction, and SF in the top left corner, so we know what they thought the genre was. And this is a great in-class activity because it's not, they can work with a partner, they can be able to dive deeper into it, and be able to learn from their peers and start communicating and getting to know their peers. On the genre sort, they'll know they have it when they can get an 80 to 90% or higher, and then meaning expectations would be about a 70 to 80% correct, and then below expectations would be below a 65 on the genre quiz. And like I mentioned, that is just to gauge what the students are, what their prior knowledge is from 5th grade. So that's really just an entry, but it's good information to know. And then we're going to start to dive more into the genre. I didn't really think this too far through. My part about prefix and suffixes, we didn't go too far into, but like I mentioned, that was just to gauge what they're coming in as, which I think I should have changed. But moving right along, the character education, we're going to go into the genre and then different types of genre and poetry. Character education, this is a great part where in a Christian school setting, I could actually read them the verse. This would be a public school setting, so a lot of times you could talk about what genre the Bible is, that there are multiple genres represented throughout the Bible, and that wouldn't be as touched on as I would like in a public school setting. But in a Christian school setting, you could really dive deep into that and bring up verses and talk about it and actually show the Bible and all of that. And then plan supports for students who are struggling to understand the different genres. We could do a small group co-taught on Thursdays and Fridays. Is usually centers in my classroom specifically, and that's a great way to divide them up. And then we do some reading. Some would work on plot and genre, sorting, doing different things with the sort like this, very similar. And then read with teacher, and then they would also have a reading station by their own, and then they can work on their journal in the other one. So kind of like a homework station, but it's geared toward English, so they're expected to be working on English in that center. And then resources and materials needed would be a document camera, which is right there, and then they would need their notebook and pencils and glue to be able to glue this in. Technology connection. The students will all have their own Chromebook, so this will be incorporated throughout the lesson. They will be able to use their online notebooks and work on that throughout with the centers on those days. So into the genre lesson. I would first ask the students what kind of music they like. And that could be from country music to Christian music to pop music. And then we just have a class discussion about that and what types they like. And then we could go into how different genres have different styles and music has different styles, and how we can compare music, that different types of music is really different types of genres. And then when we relate it to reading, we could relate it into that different genres. I've lost my train of thought, but different genres and music are along the same lines. So there could be different genres such as fictional, nonfiction, different plots, all of that. I'm trying to find my note on that, but that's okay. And then after they've completed the genre quiz, the genre quiz looks like this. Oh wait, here it is. They'll be able to draw in what would remind them of this. So, an autobiography, it has an example of a sentence. His autobiography told only about the positive parts of his life. And then you could write thumbs up for life, draw a thumbs up, something that would relate the student back to it. And that's what I would like to see, how they can expand on that. And then, let's see, the end of the lesson will be a discussion about different types of movies and books and music that the students are interested in. So this is teacher-led discussion, but the students are actually the ones being able to explain like what type of genre is Harry Potter, or what type of genre is Jurassic Park, like science fiction and all of that. So that will be an end to sum it all up. And then we'll go through the exceptionalities. Since it is a co-taught 6th grade English class, there will be a special educator in the room. And then there are 5 students total with IEPs, and that ranges from simple needs. We do have one partially deaf student in the classroom, and then just whatever their plan is. It could be for SLD, with their IEPs. And then there is also one student with a 504 plan, and they basically only have small group testing, so they will be pulled out for that. Let's see. Learning styles and student engagement. The classroom does have various types of learning styles. That's especially why I'd want to incorporate stations and centers throughout the week, because it really will help the students be able to meet all of their needs. It's really hard as an educator to just stand right up here and say, blah, 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 blah genre. This is good. You need to know it. And then it could go in one ear and right out the other ear. So by working in centers and stations and working with a SPED teacher and a gen ed teacher and being able to just try to meet all of their specific needs, it would be a lot better for them in the long run. And then for students who are more advanced and finish early, they'll be able to help a partner in class. And what that would look like is I might take one of my students who I know is struggling more and put them with a student who has already finished and understands it, and have them work together as a pair. And that's really good because one can be teaching the other one, and they might be able to learn something different than what I could teach them specifically by just standing up at the front or just being there. They might be able to learn from their peers more or relate to them better. And then the what if. There's lots of what ifs. What if the internet's down for the day and I can't use my PowerPoint presentation to show them about all the different genres? If they don't understand enough to get to the quiz, like that's a big scare. So if I do sense that students are struggling a little more than expected, they'll be able to have the opportunity to complete the quiz in class with support. If I feel that the whole class is really struggling, we might be able to review the quiz together and then retake it the next day just to make sure that there's an understanding of what the content is. And then what if students can't? This was one of the fears I wrote down, is that accessing the pre-test for the internet or website is down. If that does happen, if the student can't access the internet, then it will just need to be taken to the next day. And that's where I might have to be like thinking on my feet really quickly. Or what I did write down is that the students can work in teams to determine types of genre from a book. So what I might do is line up 5 different books and split the class from a different genre, like sci-fi, fantasy, historical fiction, and then have the students work in teams to label them with sticky notes of what genre they think it is, and then we could discuss if they're right or wrong, or any of that. So that would be a good filler activity. And then on my lesson plan, I did have some links for the genre, definition sort, and then the word sheets, and then the genre characteristic sheet. And I think that about sums it all up. I really would like to just further expand on this and then be able to watch this back and learn what I need to work on. Maybe it's more prep time. Maybe it's just putting my thoughts clearer onto my lesson plan so I can better communicate it to my students. But anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, and yay for 6th grade.